Good afternoon. This is Rick Neidorf with Miami's Community News, and we have a guest today. This is Dr. Ernesto Custodio of Agile Genesis. Company website happens to be agilegenesis.com, and I would love to hear some background first, if you could share with us how long Agile Genesis has been in available to people.
Sure thing, and thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Rick. The company has been around since 2018, and we provided services primarily to organizations that wanted to optimize their process. That's where the name Agile Genesis comes from, a new way of being agile as an organization through the people and the process that we were able to enable. And as time progressed, we realized that organizations also needed technical help, technical assistance, that the third leg in that stool was the enablement of the organization through its technical capabilities. So today, we help organizations improve overall, and we do that with the people, the process, and the technology. And that technology that is driving the most today is AI. Yeah.
And that is interesting in that please tell our audience about your background.
Yeah, sure. So I began in network engineering and went to work in Wall Street, where I was building out trading floors. And this was many, many years ago, a lifetime ago. Very interesting. And I noticed all of the inefficiencies that we were struggling with, all of the red tape, all of the things that we needed to go through in order to just do a simple cable patching. That got me very interested in optimization. How do we improve how we work so that we're not wasting so much time? And as time progressed, I went to do my MBA, and in that time, I discovered the art of optimization in organizations, and that was in the form of lean management. Lean management comes to us via the Toyota way. Back in the 60s and 70s, when most of us learned to drive a car that was a Toyota because the quality was so high, it had to do with how they worked in the plants, how they worked in the factory. That was lean management. Fantastic way to optimize how you work. But it had one challenge. I worked on configurations, I worked on systems. They didn't have tangible parts. I needed something that allowed me to do it at a software level. And I continued to look into optimizing businesses that do that. And it led me to agile frameworks, agile approaches. These are ways in how we communicate with each other, how we collaborate. The minute we have more than one person in the room, we need to collaborate together. We need to establish a way of doing that. And that's where Agile came in. And I really was interested in that and went on to do my PhD research in Agile collaboration for distributed teams. Well, when we had the pandemic, that became a very, very hot topic, and we were able to assist many companies in doing so. And in doing that, the tools, the technology became even that much more central. And when we began to do that, help companies optimize the tooling, because my research showed that companies struggle with the meetings, with the training, with the organization, agility, and of course the technology. And when we began to do that, Agile was just AI was just a natural segue for companies to continue to get optimization out of that. So while I was at a Fortune 500 in Silicon Valley for about 20 years, there I was able to lead teams where we were exploring how we can actually use AI for purposes of optimizing our own operations. I was part of a team that was the first at that company in doing so. And so I was able to bring some of that, and then the advances that we've had since then now make that accessible to everyone without code, without technical knowledge. And that's when we come in. We help companies to actually adopt that.
That's great. So that's a great segue. Here at Community News, we use AI, but mostly Chat, GPT, Gemini, and we know that we're just touching the surface. So could you expand on AI in regards to an entity like Community News or any other company? It doesn't have to be a multi-digital platform and print business. It could be anything, a health organization. Tell us about that.
And that's the key. I think you nailed it there. It could be any organization, including a health services organization. Now, every company has its own fingerprint, and therefore the needs that they have are going to be unique. The tools that we apply to that are going to need to be unique to that organization, that combination of things. But let's get to the nitty-gritty. Let's talk about how we can go beyond ChatGPT. Most of us are dabbling with AI today with something like ChatGPT. Many folks have already used it. They love it. How do we take that further, right? And it depends on the use case. So let's take, for example, sales leads. Very, very hot topic today. AI is all over lead generation, the ability to identify the individuals that are likely to buy your product and services. Well, we can use many platforms today that allow us to automate that with AI as a thinking element of that process. So reaching out to individuals, really reaching out to potential readers and making that a custom outreach where it addresses me by name and it addresses me by my preferred method of consuming that information, whether it be by email, whether it be by LinkedIn, whether it be by Instagram. So this omni-channel approach and having the AI decide what is the optimal one and how, what tone to use, and addressing me based on my particular need is one particular use case that is very, very popular today. That's why we see a lot of digital marketing agencies now rushing toward AI adoption because it's such a powerful tool for what they did traditionally by hand. That's one angle or one use case. And we can do this all day. So I'll continue on with the idea that on the sales side of things, so we've identified this individual, we're marketing now to the individual, and that creates that that connection back and forth, right? We're even able to chat with that individual through our AI. So you don't have to be sitting at the keyboard with 100 different screens trying to identify and catch up with that person. When we get to the sales table, being able to essentially understand where are the pain points for this person, that's something that an AI can actually feed us. And then taking that and being able to compare it to successful sales that we've had in the past. Maybe that's an individual in the organization that sells the most. We can model that person. What I mean by modeling is we can feed an AI the discussions that person's had in their meetings, with their permission, of course, and make that a training element for the other sales individuals. These are the things that Joe says that make him such a great salesperson. And the AI could be interactive, meaning these individuals can actually test this out in an interactive form with the AI. And now they're elevating their sales and closing more deals, something that many companies are interested in. Now, we're in a newspaper setting, in a media setting, so many of your needs might be along the way of content, right? And you have a heavy need for content. You're constantly generating that. It's your value. Well, that content can actually be made a lot more faster today. It doesn't replace the writer, doesn't replace the human creativity. What it does, it allows you to identify the trending topics, right? If I'm writing articles about the locomotive system in the United States, when everyone is trying to understand how AI works, I'm going to get more readerships if I write about the latter, right? So understanding what those topics are, what is going on in the Miami community, what's going on in Coral Gables, what are the hot topics that are driving readership, now gives you a list of those elements that you can use to do further research, right? So identification of topic is a big one. On trending topics. And that writing, the next step, that research, we can do a deep search. That's a form of searching that allows us to get data from the internet, maybe 200 websites in a single search that takes no more than 30 seconds. And now we're able to assemble a report for that particular topic. Now, here's where the human in the loop is valuable. Here's where the AI does not replace the person. We look at that report and we decide what might be the most relevant one given our experience. You have many years of experience. We're not going to take that off the table. But now you have an assistant that's done the research for you, and you can sit and do your creative writing in a more effective way. Okay? So all the way from lead generation to sales to actually writing content. Those are three main ones. I'm going to step back and allow you to digest that, and so if you have any questions.
And I appreciate that. Thank you, Doctor. So I understand how it can help a multi print organization that uses multiple digital platforms. How would something in the health field, hospitals, how would AI help a health organization like a large hospital chain?
Yeah, that's a great question. First, with operational efficiencies, right? Many hospitals are trying to improve their margins with how much they are spending in pay per bed. Optimizing that. That's not even touching the patient. This is how we're doing things internally. That's a universal use case that just about every business can benefit from today. Now, it's interesting that you ask about healthcare in particular, because that's where that guidance comes in. That's where the AI consulting is able to guide the organization through choosing the right solutions. Something like ChatGPT would not be recommendable for that hospital because you need to be HIPAA compliant. That's a compliance that most healthcare organizations need to be behind. Something like Claude is actually HIPAA compliant, and you have to use it in a certain way in order to adhere to that compliance. So choosing the right AI is important. But let's talk about what's possible, right? How much of that actual process that goes into getting you and I the proper healthcare goes into scheduling, emailing, and continuing to connect with all of the necessary elements before someone steps into the surgery room. Much of that can be automated today. Much of that can be assisted with AI. And by the way, can we look at all of the steps and put an AI through it to analyze whether we missed anything? Is there anything that's going to keep us from performing the surgery on this individual? Many of us may show up someday at one point or another, and then we realize that we don't have all of the elements, and now we have to go to our general physician in order to get clearance for surgery, things of that nature, right? So these are all things that can be used to optimize the internal process. From the external, meaning the customer, could a hospital have a chatbot that helps me to understand the process necessary that I need to do if I want to benefit from their health services? So a pre-trained AI enabled, and there's a difference, an AI enabled, it's actually a tool that is able to, let's say, think like the hospital because we fed it the information relating to customer services into our process. So now as a customer, as a potential patient, I am able to have a conversation with this AI. And today we're even seeing very, very effective conversational AIs. I don't need to type if we want to take it to that step. We can actually converse with the machine in a very human-like way.
So that's interesting. We have thousands of notices that must go out on a weekly basis. If they are identical to the previous week, how does AI pick that up? And if there are changes, how do we teach AI that, or do we have to flag it and go from there?
That's a low-hanging fruit. That's such a great use case. I call it a low-hanging fruit because I already see the moving elements in there. No code, comparing two documents to each other, something AI excels at, right? So we would take your prior records and we would feed it to a actual AI, to a custom AI. Sounds complicated, but this is nothing more than dragging documents in and making sure that they are within the privacy elements that you need in order to adhere to your process. We feed it, and now we actually train that AI, we create what we call a meta prompt, a system prompt. And we say, I want you to analyze past records against what I'm going to feed you. That's even keeping us from having to instruct it. All we're doing is literally dragging a new document, and we're asking it in that meta prompt to give us the elements that we're looking for. What are we looking for? We're looking for the delta. What's a variation in this? And if there are variations, I'd like you to reformat this new record so that it adheres to our format. So now what you've done is that you're able to take something like a court record, you drag it into this custom AI, and it's going to spit out, if you will, a new, well-formatted one that you, as the human in the loop, can validate, right? So what did it do? It saved you having to read through it, look at the prior one, were there any differences? And if they were, I now need to go and format it into the proper form and then export it. All done by an automated process that has AI in the loop.
That's wonderful. How else do you see AI helping businesses beyond generating leads?
Yeah. So the idea of workflow automation is where the businesses are going to get the most value today. There's so much we do in business that is redundant, that is passing information from one place to another. We've grown accustomed to it because we grew up with it. That's just what I do at work. Well, it doesn't have to be that way anymore. Now we have a mechanism, now we have a assistant that could do much of that for us, even when we're asleep, even when we're not there. It works 24 hours. It doesn't get tired. So the idea that if you are processing your daily work, I normally have a conversation with individuals. So what's the one thing that you would like to take off your plate that you're doing repetitively that makes you yawn when you come into work? That's probably a good candidate for AI, right?
That's terrific. There are a lot of things that make us yawn here, but they have to be done. And so historically, how many years ago were you involved in AI?
Yeah, so I first came across AI, I'm going to say maybe 2012, around that time.
Wow.
Yeah, this was a time when working with AI requires significant technical heavy lifting. We were sitting on millions of records from customer support that we knew had value because our support team was solving the same problems over and over. So I was tasked with figuring out how can we extract that data and make something that could give us a solution before it actually happens as a problem. Well, in order for us to understand that, we needed to understand the language. We needed to understand English. And when I say we, I mean the machine. So I partnered with universities to understand how we can improve what we call natural language processing. And that led to a publication in IEEE and so on, where we looked at semantic understanding and what that meant, because first we had to label everything and so on. Why am I getting into this story? Because it took me a long time, and we had marginal results out of what today is available on every single phone. So that accessibility has finally become mainstream. We can now talk to a machine, whereas before we even had to teach it how to read. So that's what's exciting. It's a really, really exciting time to be in business today, because first, after we understand what's possible, then we move into the fact that it's available to us. It's no longer behind a $1 trillion gate investment in order for you to have that.
Do you have classes where you teach AI?
Yeah, sure. We do actually. So much of what we realize is that the barrier to entry today is in knowledge. It's in understanding what AI is and what it's not, what it can do and what it cannot do. So we have applied AI fundamentals class. What that means, the applied aspect is this is not theoretical, let me teach you how to code. This is, hey, what are the things that you want to solve? And let's get to those tools that can help you. And by the time you're done, you actually have, number one, an understanding what AI is, two, an idea on how that can help you, and three, some actual use cases that you can use in your environment. Yeah. So we run those. Those are one-day classes. You might be thinking this is a 6-month engagement. No, this is right to the core. This is about practical elements that individuals need to understand and use AI.
Okay. And so I guess that's, where would you like to see AI go from here?
Great question. I love to see it more in the hands of small and medium-sized businesses. Traditionally, AI had been something that was available to large enterprises with a lot of resources. There's so much that I come from a family of entrepreneurs, small size businesses. My mother owned a restaurant. I worked in that restaurant when I was young, and I now see all of the elements that could have helped that business, that our family be more successful. I think we can bring that to the hands of the people in such a way that really, really gives them that competitive edge, that helps them. It helps you in the area of accounting. I saw much of that in the area of not understanding the finances of the business. Today, AI can actually help a company understand their finances, where those gaps are, where those gapping actual leaks might be in the business. And it could, to some extent, help us understand whether there's fraud in the business by analyzing the inventory. These are all use cases that can help individuals. So I like it from the perspective of truly enabling the average business owner, the entrepreneur, or the medium-sized business to improve how they work.
That's wonderful. Well, you have a family here, and I understand you have a son who is, why don't you share with us about your son?
Sure. So my son is, he's a fantastic individual. I was so proud of him. Great individual, good-hearted and hardworking. And he is at West Point, the U.S. Military Academy over in New York. And his aspirations are to become an astronaut. So he is working hard there, and he is majoring in physics, theoretical physics, working on some fantastic things there. The exposure, the things that he's learning, I'm jealous to a degree, because he's doing such good work. One of the things they're working on is in a quantum antenna. That's one of the researches that they recently were able to publish, and he actually partook on that with the team. Having that combined with serving the country, having that with the physical and mental rigor that comes with that, it's just been a fantastic experience as a parent to see our son go from being a high schooler to this mature individual.
Yeah. That's wonderful. So I would like to thank you, Dr. Very much, Dr. Ernesto Custodio. And the company is Agile Genesis at agilegenesis.com. And I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Likewise. It's been my pleasure, Rick. And you mentioned the class. If you go on that website that you just mentioned, there are some classes listed there. I believe our next one is coming up on the 14th. And there's opportunities for organizations. If you are interested in using our services, we are happy to provide Agile consulting services, whether that is a private class for an organization or whether that is with the actual engagement of helping organizations transform how they work.
That's wonderful. So I thank you again very much, and that is that's it for today. Thank you.
Thank you.